it's funny how the mind works, motivation, inspiration, all that stuff just kind of clicks, and all of a sudden you find yourself doing an exercise which you don't really care about all that much, but it fits into a system, it fits into a belief, some sort of idea that you have fits really well into that system, and you go from there. For me, for the longest time, I've said to you guys that I'm not really all that, up for bench pressing. It's just, I don't like it. It's one of those exercises. I'm laying down on a bench and I've got weight on top of me. And unless I'm home, when you're doing it in the gym with the open bench press setups, you can potentially hurt you. It's probably the scariest lift that I know that I can do in the gym. It's the bench press. So there's that element. And there's this like sensation that it's kind of like, I don't know, like you're pinned between two things and you're trying to push, and it's weird. Whereas with push-ups, I feel like it's a much more holistic movement. Everything's working. You're basically planking for the duration of the exercise while you're doing the pushing. So that kind of lights me up. I for a very, very long time, even during the basketball days, I loved doing push-ups. It attracted me. It's something we did in training. It's something that I did away from basketball as well. It's something that everyone does. It's kind of like one of the first, most basic, most fundamental exercises there is in fitness and strength and conditioning. It's like you do a push-up. You think about the military world. It's one of those fundamental exercises, along with maybe running and pull-ups. So I've got a greater affinity to push-ups. Much, much greater affinity than bench press. So, now I'm kind of excited about doing push-ups because it fits into this grand scheme of thinking, which is this high rep business. I've had a lot of success with it in the past. It translated really well to bench press. It's a plank, right? And I don't know, like I'm thinking in the back of my mind, this probably has benefits to me, doing deadlifts and squats as well, because there's a plank there. So see how it's like a much more involved exercise. It doesn't really have a lot of respect in the powerlifting world because, we all bench press 2 times body weight, or do we, right? But if you go to a scale, like a weighing scale, and you try and do a push-up on top of it, and so you put both of your hands on the weigh machine, you'll find that it's around 2/3 of your body weight, something like that. And so that's me doing 60 kilos on the bench press, something along those lines, 60 to 70 kilos for lots of repetitions. But if you compare, 60 kilo bench press to push-ups, you can't, the benefits of one are far greater than the other. For one, your scapula is free in the push-ups, so you're working the serratus anterior, you're planking, which involves everything, from the rectus femoris to the psoas to the rectus abdominis, all of that stuff. All of that front of you is working. Now, there's probably a lot more going on with the stabilizers across the body, but I think it's a lot better for your shoulders. It's one of the criticisms that we all have with bench pressing is that it kind of busts our shoulders up, the rotator cuffs. You're locked in, you can't really move with your body around where the body wants to move because you're pinned between two things, the barbell and the bench. With the push-ups, it's kind of like really easy to kind of rotate around. Anyway, for me, it just always felt better. And when something feels better, you're more likely to go back to it. It's almost like there's an internal will, there's an internal gravitational pull towards that exercise. You just love it. That's how I feel towards push-ups. That's how I feel towards pull-ups, all that other stuff. This is why I've kind of flirted this year with the idea of just doing upper body calisthenics and focusing on the other stuff with the barbell stuff, squats and deadlifts and all that. And now it's evolved to a point where I'm thinking about doing everything for high reps, body weight. So your 45 hypers done for 20 or 30 reps, your good mornings. I know that's kind of a barbell movement, but it's just a hip hinge and it's very, very light. And I've had moments in my past where I've tried to load that thing. It doesn't feel good. You start to kind of, there's a tipping point where, your benefits are not worth the risk of the added weight. It gets to a point where, I've seen the West Side Barbell videos where it's kind of like, I don't know if he's squatting it or if he's good morning it. It's kind of like the knees start to bend and you wonder, what is it? Like if it's a vertical shin, and you're going to a good morning, is that a good morning or is there just a low bar squat? I can't quite make out what it is. I think the benefits of the good morning is when you are relatively stiff-legged. That's where you kind of get that benefit. But obviously that's up to interpretation, and it's up to what you want to do. But all I know is that I've heard many, many great lifters stories about them snapping themselves up with that exercise. So that's the last thing I want to do. So I've got in my mind push-ups. I've got these good mornings / 45 hypers. I'm smashing those now in my mind. I'm excited to do that. Even on days like this where I'm heading into a night shift and, you know, I'm not all that excited about getting a lot of work in, but it's really light and it gets the range of motion in the hypers or the good mornings that I did today. You just feel good. You walk away, you're like, man, I've done a lot of blood, circulation today. It's one of those things. It's kind of like, me maybe 2 years ago, I would have come into a session like this and just, I don't know, I would have maybe pulled, maybe not even 2 years ago, maybe even like 6 months ago, I would have come in, done a straight up singles run all the way to, 220, 230 on the deadlift. Same thing with the front squat, work up to 140 and then go in the house. And it's like, yes, I've gained something, practice with the lifts, very specific, singles. Okay, no worries. I've added some tension to the system. But when you compare to what I've done today, 100 push-ups, 110 push-ups, and 5 times 30, lot of reps on the good mornings, I just feel like there's a lot more benefit doing that. That's kind of how I feel about it. So you guys are going to see me start sessions now with push-ups. I thought about how I would best approach push-ups. I just said to you, I enjoy push-ups a lot more than bench press. But still, these two things are nowhere near, the enjoyment that I have when I do squats and deadlifts. So I thought about it this morning and I was like, why don't I get the push-ups out of the way kind of thing when I'm fresh? So I don't have to kind of feel like, oh, it's the last thing I have to do before I go home, or it's the last thing, the last exercise, and you're kind of like dragging your feet and like looking at your phone, or, wandering around. When is this going to end? Like, oh, should I do one more set, blah, 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 all that stuff. So it's kind of like a mind trick just to do it first. Do it first. It's not heavy stuff. It's not going to tax you in the front squat. At least I don't think so. And then just, you have the opportunity, kind of same thing as the pull-ups that I've done and also with the hypers, to tuck in another block of push-ups at the end. But once you get the first load out, you kind of feel like you're ahead of the day. It's kind of weird, man. It's almost like waking up really early in the day at 4:30 or 5 o'clock or whatever else, you guys wake up. You kind of feel like you're ahead of the day. It's the same feeling I had today when I was training. After I'd finished the push-ups, I felt like I was ahead of myself, almost like, I've done something, that I don't particularly enjoy, let's say. I don't know, it was maybe just a mental thing for me, but, historically speaking, I would usually come in and just focus on the squat. What do I need to do for the squat? But maybe this is just like another little way I can work in more volume, because I don't know how many times I've said it in the last few weeks, man, there's a trick with getting more volume in, and that's kind of breaking it up within the same freaking session, man. So, I've used hypers, I've used push-ups now, I've not quite, but I'm talking about it. And I've used pull-ups, where you come in, you do a block of, I don't know, like you do 50 total pull-ups, I don't know, break it up into how many sets you want to do. You feel exhausted by the end of that, like your lats are spent, you can't really do anything, and you go ahead and you go and do something else for, 30, 45 minutes, an hour even. And then once you've, come back, you could probably do the exact same thing that you do with the pull-ups. You can do it again. This is something that I've learned with Grease in the Groove. When you get that pump, you feel like you're done. You can't even contract the muscle. You're all kind of engorged with blood in that muscle, and it's almost like useless. You let that sucker wash away. You let all that perfusion wash away. You let all that pressure from the muscle wash away. All of a sudden, you're good to go. You're good to go again. And this is where it makes sense to train multiple times a day. If I had the time, I'd freaking love to do that, but I don't have that time, to squat that many times in a day and whatnot. But with things like pull-ups and push-ups, basically no requirement for warming up or anything. There's no mobility requirement. You just come in and just bang them out. Now we start to get into a much more accessible, much more doable process. You know, a lot of us need to come in and ambulate ourselves and mobilize ourselves to get into really good squat positions and deadlift positions, especially when you're working with weight, right? But bodyweight stuff has this special advantage, special little perk, you know, associated with them, with those exercises. It's kind of like you can bang them out whenever you want. So if you're at home, if you don't have equipment and you reckon your gym is closing on a Sunday or Saturday or wherever, man, you can always get work in. Do not underestimate the power of calisthenics, man. One of you guys said in a comment last night, it sparked my mind. You know, you said something like, go to any park in New York and you will see guys who just look jacked, right? And I thought to myself, man, I've seen so many videos. I've seen so many calisthenics guys look unbelievable. What do? They do a shit ton of volume with basic freaking movements, man. Pull-ups and push-ups and those variations. You can build a freaking body and a half, man. Most of those guys look better than most of powerlifters. It's just like, I would even say some of the bodybuilders, depends if you know which category you want to talk about, but there's something about a pull-up and a push-up that just builds a balanced body because they're compound movements. Isolation movements and all this sort of stuff, I feel like we can morph the body or dysmorph the body into some weird kind of extreme proportions. If you do these big movements like pull-ups and push-ups, it's like everything else gets taken care of itself. It's weird. Other than legs. I mean, most of those guys don't have legs. I feel like legs are best trained with weight. And that's kind of my opinion. It might be different. You guys might have examples. Special thanks to Taylor, Samuel, and Stephen, as always. I appreciate you fellas for the support. Appreciate everyone else in the Patreon list down in the description box as well. And also, some of you guys have also signed up to the first tier of the Patreon, which basically is the anonymous kind of level. I want to thank you guys as well. You guys are not on any of the lists, but you guys know who you are. So I want to say I really appreciate you guys. The Discord community is growing. It's, like I said it before, it's exactly what I wanted. So thank you guys for suggesting that. Thank you for teaching me the ways around the app, the platform. Really, really good. I've got a night shift tonight. When I get up, you know, from the other side, maybe, I don't know, on a Wednesday or something like that, I'll look into getting some of those Q&A questions done as well, again, on Discord as well. So I'll post that maybe on a Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. So I'm going to try and get them out every week, as long as the questions keep coming and there's a need for it. I have fun with it, and it's very minimal work for me. Just put on the camera for half an hour and it's done. All right, guys. I'll catch you guys on the other side of the night shift. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.